Uncle, Uncle, are you okay? The voice pulled me out of my thoughts. I blinked and realized I had been sitting there for far too long. The child stood in front of me, a small hand tugging at my shirt, my eyes wide open, and for a moment, I forgot where I was. "Yes," I said quietly, "I am okay." She smiled, satisfied. "This is my brother," she said. "Her children, my siblings." Why were they calling me Uncle Justice? Why would they? Wait, who told them I was their uncle? I looked at my mother, hoping her eyes would soften, hoping she would laugh and say it was just a mistake. But she didn't. She kept her gaze on the children, straight-backed and careful, as if the truth might spill out if she bent too much. "This is my brother," she added quickly. "His name is Justice." The children chorused the greeting. "Good afternoon, Uncle Justice." "What Uncle Justice?" "Oh, yes, this is Uncle Justice, and this is my story." I was born in a village that smelled of wet earth and firewood. People say I cried a lot, but I don't remember the crying. What I remember are my grandmother's hands, rough, warm, always certain. She held me like I belonged somewhere. My mother named me Justice. For 2 years, she was all I knew. Her back as she walked ahead of me on narrow paths, her voice calling my name when I wandered too far, her lap when the nights were cold and my body shook with fever or fear. Then one morning, she dressed differently. I didn't understand what hustle meant, or town, or even money. I only knew she packed a small bag and tied her hair neatly, the way women do when they are going somewhere important. I followed her around the compound, holding on the edge of her skirt. She kept saying, "I won't be long." Adults say that when they want children to stop asking questions. She knelt in front of me and wiped my face. Her hands trembled, just a little. I remember that because my grandmother noticed too. She cleared her throat and turned away, pretending to be busy. "Stay with your grandmother," my mother said. "I am going to town." I didn't cry. I only nodded because I had learned that nodding made adults happy. She stood up and walked away. I watched her until the path swallowed her whole. I waited for her to turn back one last time. But she did not. Since Mama left, food was never certain. We measured days by what was left in the granary, and nights by how early anger sent us to sleep. My mother worried a lot. I remember that now, the way her eyes followed every cup of flour, every coin, every promise of tomorrow. When she left, poverty simply stopped pretending. With only my grandmother and I, the house grew quieter and poorer. Meals became thinner, and laughter became rare. My grandmother stretched everything: food, patience, hope. But some things cannot be stretched forever. There were days we shared one meal. There were days we shared excuses. "Eat slowly," my grandmother would tell me occasionally, as if that could make the food last longer. When there was nothing left, she tied her handkerchief and took my hand. We walked to neighbors, not as visitors, but as people asking to be seen. She spoke with respect, humility in her voice, carrying years of dignity that anger had not yet stolen. Sometimes we returned with something, sometimes we returned with nothing. On those days, my grandmother would light the fire anyway, boil water, and tell me stories until I slept it off. It's been 6 months since my mother went away. It started with daily calls and greetings, which gradually changed to weekly and then monthly. At first, my grandmother defended her. "She is struggling too," my grandmother would say. "She will remember us." But remembering did not fill our plates. Other children talked about their mothers bringing things from town: soap, sugar, bread wrapped in newspaper. I listened, and wanting too much only made the days longer. At night, I slept close to my grandmother, listening to her breathe. She was my world now, the only person who still claimed me without hesitation. And even as a child, I had already understood this. Occasionally, I would ask about my mother the way other children asked for food, not because I thought the answer would change, but because asking made her feel closer. "Is Mama coming back today? Will Mama come tomorrow? When she comes, will she bring me something?" My grandmother never snapped at me. She never told me to stop asking. She would pause whatever she was doing, peeling cassava, mending clothes, warming water, and look at me with tired eyes. "She will come," she said. "She will come." At first I believed her completely. Then time began to stretch. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. My questions became routine, woven into the rhythm of the house. Sometimes I asked while we ate, sometimes while we walked, sometimes while laying beside her in the dark. Each time, the answer stayed the same. What I didn't know was that my grandmother had stopped hearing from her long ago. No letters, no messages, no words through neighbors or relatives. That silence had already told her everything. But she still said, "She will come," because she knew what the truth would do to me. She carried that truth alone, the way old people carry heavy things quietly without complaint. Once, I saw her staring down the path that led out of the village. She stood there longer than usual, as if expecting something to rise from the dust. When I asked who she was waiting for, she smiled and said she was just resting her eyes. That night, I heard her praying. She didn't pray for food or money. She prayed for strength. As I grew older, my questions changed. I stopped asking when my mother would come back and started asking why she hadn't. My grandmother's answers grew softer, slower. "She is busy. Life is hard, my child. She will come when God allows." Then one night, as we sat quietly outside looking at the stars, something that had become a norm, I heard my grandmother whisper, "Your mother has sent word." The sentence hung in the air like something fragile. I stood up so fast the stool left and fell behind me, my chest filled with a joy I didn't know how to hold. "When? Is she coming here? Is she taking me with her?" My grandmother did not answer immediately. She sat down slowly, as if her body had suddenly grown heavier. "She is married now," she said. The word married meant nothing to me then. All I heard was she was alive. "Is she coming to get me?" I asked. My grandmother looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes that scared me. Not anger, not sadness alone, fear of what her answer might do to me. "She will come and see you," she said carefully. "You will go to town when school closes." Town? The word lit up inside me like fire. I imagined tall buildings, new clothes, full plates. I imagined my mother holding my hands in the streets, telling people, "This is my son." "I will wait," I said. That night, I couldn't sleep. Beside me, my grandmother did not sleep either. I heard her turn again and again on the mat. At one point, I heard her quietly crying. I wanted to reach out, but I didn't. Children sense when adults are breaking and learn to stay still. I didn't know I had siblings until the day I stepped into her house. "Good afternoon, Uncle Justus." And just like that, I was no longer her son. I was Uncle Justus, and the light stayed. Over time, it became easier to live with it than to fight it. I tried to correct my siblings once or twice. I would smile and say softly, "I'm your brother." They would laugh, shake their heads, and look at my mother for confirmation. She would smile too, gently, firmly, and say, "No, he is your uncle." They believed her. Why wouldn't they? I realized then that truth does not survive without support, and I had none. So I stopped correcting them and became Uncle Justus. I smiled when they ran to me. I laughed when they climbed onto my lap. I listened to their stories and helped with their homework and carried them when they were tired. I did all the things a brother would do, but under the name that was never mine. And every time they said Uncle Justus, something inside me folded quietly. A little piece of my childhood slipped away, buried under the weight of a lie I had not created but was forced to carry. By the time I grew up, the lie was permanent. It had carved itself into the family, into the way everyone spoke, into the space I occupied. Even I began to call myself uncle sometimes, because it was easier than fighting for a truth no one wanted to hear. At night, when the house was silent, I remembered the small child who once believed she would come back. I remembered the mat beside my grandmother, where I learned to wait. I remembered that for a moment, just a moment, I had been her son. Years passed. The uncle became a man. I went to school. I worked odd jobs. I moved to the city for a while and built a life from the fragments my childhood had left me. I learned to smile when my siblings called me uncle. I learned to laugh when people assumed distance was my choice. I learned to live with a shadow of absence I could never shake. I married a woman who didn't know the weight I carried. She didn't know the quiet ache of being a son without a mother, a brother without siblings, an uncle by accident. She only knew me, and she loved me. That was a gift I tried not to squander. But love does not erase the past. When our first child was born, the question began small at first, innocent. What will we call her? My wife asked, holding our daughter in her arms. I froze. The question cracked open walls I had spent years building. Who would our daughter call grandmother? My mother? My grandmother, who raised me like her own? Both? Neither? I imagined my mother smiling at a title she had enforced for years. I imagined my siblings still calling me uncle, watching in confusion if names changed. I imagined my daughter innocent and curious, trying to navigate the tangled web of my life. And I realized there was no perfect answer, only choices, compromises, and quiet explanations, and inevitably more questions. I looked at my daughter, her tiny hands wrapped around my finger, and I made a decision. I would tell her the truth, gently, honestly, as much as she would carry. I would tell her about a mother who left, a grandmother who stayed, a family built on silence and survival. I would teach her that life is complicated and people do what they think they must. And I would protect her from the past that hurts too much, because life is not fair, and sometimes love is the only thing that holds the pieces together. That evening, I carried her to my grandmother's house. The walls still smelled of firewood and old cloth. I thought of the child I had been, the child who waited, who hoped, who learned that even when promises are broken, someone can still stay. I whispered to my daughter, "This is where our story begins." And for the first time I understood. Family is not only what you are given, it is what you decide to make of it. I think of my mother sometimes, not always with anger, but with the ache of a child who wanted more than life could give him. I think of my grandmother whose hands and heart held me when no one else would. I think of my siblings who never knew the full story, and I smile faintly because innocence is both cruel and kind. Now I hold my own child, and I see the same hope I once had. I know the titles, the lies, the missing pieces will shape her too. But she'll also know love that chooses to remain, even when truth is complicated. Family is messy. Family is quiet. Family is what survives when all else fails. And maybe this is enough. Let my daughter sleep in my arms and whisper the words I have carried for years. I'm still here. I was always here. And somehow, this is how we survive.